Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gonna do a double dose today. Read a little more Krishna book. Just finish these couple of rounds here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Krishna book. Why is it so wonderful? This Krishna book is so wonderful. Just read these pastimes, hear these pastimes over and over and over. And they never get old. They're always fresh. They're always new and delightful. It's Krishna. Name, Hare Krishna. Pastimes, form, paraphernalia. This is chapter 13, The Stealing of the Boys and Calves by Brahma. Sukadeva Goswami was very much encouraged when Maharaj Pariksit asked him why the cowherd boys did not discuss the death of Aghasura until after 1 year had passed. He explained thus: "My dear king, you are making the subject matter of the transcendental pastimes of Krishna fresher by your inquisitiveness. It is said that it is the nature of a devotee to constantly apply his mind, energy, words, ears, etc. in hearing and chanting about Krishna. The nature of a devotee to apply his mind constantly, his energy, his words, his ears, hearing and chanting about Krishna. This is called Krishna consciousness. And for one who is wrapped in hearing and chanting Krishna, subject matter never becomes hackneyed or old. That is the significance of transcendental subject matter in contrast to material subject matter. Material subject matter becomes stale, and one cannot hear a certain subject for a long time. He wants change. But as far as transcendental subject matter is concerned, it is called, oh boy, really, really long Sanskrit word. I'm not even going to try it. It's like, it must be 25 letters long. Forget it. Big Sanskrit word. This means that one can go on chanting and hearing about the Lord and never feel tired, but will remain fresh and eager to hear more and more. It is the duty of a spiritual master to disclose all confidential subject matter to the inquisitive and sincere disciple. Thus, Sukadeva Goswami began to explain why the killing of Aghasura was not discussed until 1 year had passed. Sukadeva Goswami told the king, "Now, hear of this secret with attention. After saving his friends from the mouth of Aghasura, and after killing the demon, Lord Krishna brought his friends to the bank of Yamuna and addressed them as follows: My dear friends, just see how this spot is very nice for taking lunch and playing on the soft sandy Yamuna bank. You can see how the lotus flowers in the water are beautifully blown and how they distribute their flavor all around. The chirping of the birds, along with cooing of the peacocks, surrounded by the whispering of the leaves in the trees, combine and present sound vibrations that echo one another. And this just enriches the beautiful scenery created by the trees here. Let us have our lunch in this spot, because it's already late and we're feeling hungry. Let the calves remain near us and let them drink water from the Yamuna while we engage in our lunch taking. The calves may engage in eating the soft grasses that are in this spot. On hearing this proposal from Krishna, all the boys became very glad and said, "Certainly, let us all sit down here to take our lunch." They then let loose the calves to eat the soft grass. Sitting down on the ground and keeping Krishna in the center, they began to open their different boxes brought from home. Lord Sri Krishna was seated in the center of the circle, and all the boys kept their faces toward him. They ate and constantly enjoyed seeing the Lord face to face. Krishna appeared to be the whorl of a lotus flower, and the boys surrounding him appeared to be its different petals. The boys collected flowers, leaves of flowers, and barks of trees, and placed them under the different boxes, and thus they began to eat their lunch, keeping company with Krishna. While taking lunch, each boy began to manifest different kinds of relations with Krishna, and thus they enjoyed each other's company with joking words. While thus enjoying lunch with his friends, Lord Krishna's flute was pushed within the belt of his cloth, and his bugle and cane were pushed in on the left-hand side of his cloth. He was holding a lump of foodstuff prepared with yogurt, butter, rice, and pieces of fruit salad in his left palm, which could be seen through his petal-like finger joints. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who accepts the results of all great sacrifices, was laughing and joking, enjoying lunch with his friends in Vrindavan, and thus the scene was being observed by the demigods from heaven. As for the boys, they were simply enjoying transcendental bliss in the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At that time, the calves pasturing nearby, entered into the deep forest, allured by new grasses, and gradually went out of sight. When the boys saw that the calves were not nearby, they became afraid for their safety, and they immediately cried out, "Krishna!" Krishna is the killer of fear personified. Everyone is afraid of fear personified, but fear personified is afraid of Krishna. By crying out the word Krishna, the boys at once transcended the fearful situation. Out of his great affection, Krishna did not want his friends to give up their pleasing lunch engagement and go searching for the calves. He therefore said, "My dear friends, you need not interrupt your lunch. Go on enjoying. I'm going personally where the calves are." Thus, Lord Krishna immediately started to search out the calves in the caves and bushes. He searched in the mountain holes and in their forests, but nowhere could he find them. At the time when Agashura was killed, and the demigods were looking on the incident with great surprise, Brahma, who was born out of the lotus flower growing out of the navel of Vishnu, also came to see. He was surprised to see how a little boy like Krishna could act so wonderfully. Although he was informed that the little cowherd boy was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he wanted to see more glorified pastimes of the Lord, and thus he stole all the calves and cowherd boys and took them to a different place. Lord Krishna, therefore, in spite of searching for the calves, could not find them, and he even lost his boyfriends on the bank of the Yamuna, where they had been taking their lunch. In the form of a cowherd boy, Lord Krishna was very little in comparison to Brahma, but because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could immediately understand that all the calves and boys had been stolen by Brahma. Krishna thought, Brahma has taken away all the boys and calves. How can I alone return to Vrindavan? The mothers will be aggrieved. Therefore, in order to satisfy the mothers of his friends, as well as to convince Brahma of the supremacy of the personality of Godhead, he immediately expanded himself as the cowherd boys and calves. In the Vedas, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself in so many living entities by his energy. Therefore, it is not very difficult for him to expand himself again into so many boys and calves. He expanded himself to become exactly like the boys, who were of all different features, facial and bodily construction, and who were different in their clothing and ornaments, and in their behavior and personal activities. In other words, everyone has different tastes. Being individual soul, each person has entirely different activities and behavior, yet Krishna exactly expanded himself into all the different positions of the individual boys. He also became the calves, who were also of different sizes, colors, activities, etc. This was possible because everything is an expansion of Krishna's energy. In the Vishnu Purana, it is said, Parasya Brahmana Shakti. Whatever we actually see in the cosmic manifestation, be it matter or the activities of the living entities, is simply an expansion of the energies of the Lord, as heat and light are the different expansions of fire. Thus, expanding himself as the boys and calves in their individual capacities, and surrounded by such expansions of himself, Krishna entered in the village of Vrindavan. The residents had no knowledge of what had happened. After entering the village, Vrindavan, all the calves entered their respective cowsheds, and the boys also went to their respective homes and mothers. The mothers of the boys heard the vibration of their flutes before their entrance, and to receive them, they came out of their homes and embraced them. And out of maternal affection, milk was flowing from their breasts, and they allowed the boys to drink it. However, their offering was not exactly to their boys, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had expanded himself into such boys. This was another chance for all the mothers of Vrindavan to feed the Supreme Personality of Godhead with their own milk. Therefore, Lord Krishna gave not only Yasoda the chance of feeding him, but this time he gave the chance to all the elderly gopis. All the boys began to deal with their mothers as usual, and the mothers also, on the approach of evening, began to bathe their respective children, decorate them with tilak and ornaments, and give them necessary food after the day's labor. The cows also, who were away in the pasturing ground, returned in the evening. Krishna, cuckoo, Krishna, time to chant. Hare Krishna, cuckoo, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. The cows also, who were away in the pasturing ground, returned in the evening and began to call their respective calves. The calves immediately came to their mothers, and the mothers began to lick the bodies of the calves. These relations between the cows and the gopis with their calves and boys remained unchanged, although actually the original calves and boys were not there. Actually, the cows' affection for their calves and the elderly gopis' affection for the boys causelessly increased. Their affection increased naturally, even though the calves and boys were not their offspring. Although the cows and elderly gopis of Vrindavan had greater affection for Krishna than for their own offspring. After this incident, their affection for their offspring increased exactly as it did for Krishna. For 1 year continually, Krishna himself expanded as the calves, cowherd boys, and was present in the pasturing ground. As it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's expansion is situated in everyone's heart as the super soul. Similarly, instead of expanding himself as the super soul, he expanded himself as a portion of calves and cowherd boys for one continuous year. Krishna book. Wow. Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama.